Ladies and gentlemen, do we have a show this evening? This is probably the biggest Supreme Court victory that President Trump has achieved, or that the Supreme Court has given President Trump. This is something that most people are overlooking. And I'm going to explain for the next hour why people don't really understand, they don't get how important this is. This is a second Supreme Court victory. The second Supreme Court victory that really decimates the chances of Democrats to create myths, fantasies, to obsess over nonsense for the next 4 or 5 months. Actually, 4 months. So July, August, September, October. It's going to be Hillary Clinton. It ain't going to be Biden. Otherwise, they don't get the popular vote. They definitely don't get the popular vote if it's Biden. And it's not going to be Biden. It's going to be Hillary Clinton. It always was. By the way, Luke St. Martin, Eric H526, the two best moderators in all of YouTube, thank you very much for always keeping the chat. And fellas, we're going to have thousands of people. Not to pat myself on the back, but there are going to be thousands of people. And you're going to be you already are the two best moderators in all of YouTube. But what you do is amazing. To keep the chat civil. This is a fantastic place for people to just, there are people of all different political viewpoints, but everyone on this chat, generally Trump supporters, but there are people who have all different types of opinions, and it's the two moderators on this channel that keep the chat, within YouTube guidelines and help me immeasurably. So thank you, Eric H526 and Luke St. Martin. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's a political party, let's say the Democratic Party, and they don't have anything tangible, like they can't harp on policy differences. They can't spend 4 months talking about how their policies will be better. If you have 4 months of just speaking about policies, of just speaking about the economy, of just speaking about foreign policy, and of just speaking about the First Step Act, just speaking about things that President Trump has accomplished, or speaking about Medicare for All, which is what Democrats do not want, or Green New Deal legislation, which is what Democrats do not want. Because they haven't passed any legislation, they passed a resolution. So what policies do they have, and what policies do they oppose? Are they going to spend 4 months? Are they going to spend 4 months talking about policies? Absolutely not. Would they have loved? And speaking of loved, if you enjoy this channel, to my super chat, thank you so very much. And my Patreon is below. If you want to support my voice long term, ladies and gentlemen, my Patreon is below, and it's really my Patreons and my super chat that keeps this channel, H.A. Goodman's channel, afloat. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. And to my new patrons, thank you very, very much. It is greatly appreciated. Without you, I really couldn't be doing what I'm doing, and without the super chat also, I wouldn't be doing the live stream. So thank you. But ladies and gentlemen, are they going to ask yourself the following? What is their critique of Trump? He's mean. He's divisive. He says things that are polarizing. He says things that are divisive. He says things. They don't like his rhetoric. They don't like his words. They don't like what his words entail. They don't like the imagery. They don't like the meanings and the semantics and the euphemisms that they attribute to what President Trump meant when he said this and retweeted this, and he was speaking to a group of voters that gave him the election last time. Don't you understand when President Trump speaks, all the demagoguery, and the words, the negative, the base emotions and impulses go from his mouth to cell towers, and from cell towers to old 1980s dish network radar dishes. And then from there, they go to CB radios. And then from there, they go to a homing beacon within and a microchip within the brains of bigoted people everywhere. And this fly will not leave, my God almighty. This fly is going to be, oh my God, unbelievable. And so President Trump, they don't have a critique of him. They only have a fantasy world that they constantly try to prop up. Kathy DePoy, thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy, as always. Kathy DePoy, greatly appreciated. Thank you, Kathy. I hope you're having a great evening. But why am I spending so much time setting up exactly why this is important? If they don't have a fantasy, if they can't fabricate and foment emotion derived from how polarizing and offensive and terrible Trump is, he's a terrible human being. He signed the First Step Act with this, which is prison reform legislation, which was what President Obama did not sign. That wasn't a big policy objective of 8 years when Democrats had the executive branch. But he signed the First Step Act, prison reform legislation. He signed legislation to increase funding for historically black colleges and universities. $250 million, around $250 million. It should be $1 billion. But why did President Trump do this if he was such a horrible human being? First president to sign an executive order combating anti-Semitism, which is running rampant on college campuses. Only president that we could have in this day and age to bring Americans home from America's longest-running military conflict. He signed a peace deal in late February, early March, which is exactly why I'm voting for President Trump, which is one of the main reason I wrote so much about Bernie Sanders. I want Americans home with their families, back to their families, their sons, their daughters, their husbands, their wives, their fathers, their mothers. I want them back home. I don't want them in never-ending perpetual counterinsurgency conflicts. And so if they cannot paint Trump as this madman, Kathy and everybody here, what do they have? They have nothing. So takes me 8 minutes to get to this point, and it's an important point. They obsessed over his ties to Russia. Everything was ambiguous. Possible election interference. He asked Russia for assistance. He invited assistance. He was willing to accept interference. These are ambiguous, all-encompassing, broad, absurd allegations because their corruption was outed. Their corruption was exposed within emails that they wrote with their grubby, slimy little fingers. And so they blamed Russia for 3 years. You think it's for Biden? You think that the 19th Amendment is about allowing exhumed bodies to vote and cadavers? No. The 19th Amendment, which Joe Biden will most likely want to repeal, was the amendment giving women the right to vote. Jeanette! Number one fan. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. Beautiful name. Jeanette, thank you. Kathy, thank you so very much. And also a very beautiful name. Kathy, Jeanette, thank you. Jeanette, thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Christopher! Mueller almost certainly had access to Trump's taxes. Anything shady in there would have come out by now. He's clean. Oh, absolutely. The IRS also has his taxes. They don't have anything on Trump. Christopher, Jeanette, and Kathy, thank you. The only thing they have, Ron, thank you. The only thing they have is suspicion. And with that suspicion, see, if you're suspicious of the Clintons, you can't, oh my God, correlation does not equal causation. If you even imply that correlation equals causation, you are stating things without evidence. When Trump says things when he makes statements that are just as logical and rational as starting a Mueller probe because Clapper thinks something might have happened with his high confidence assessment. They say Trump without evidence says this. Trump without evidence, without any evidence at all, makes this claim. When Trump engages in hyperbole, it is, an angel. Democrats think like angels lose their lives in heaven when Trump makes a hyperbolic statement. Oh my God, it's hyperbole. And then when they say Trump could have worked with Russia, the Steele dossier said he enjoyed bodily fluids. We have to find that out. When they engage in the most deceitful, despicable, disgusting, nauseating, overtly deceptive tactics, the appeals to authority. I mean, James Clapper really thinks so. Really? That's interesting. He doesn't have any evidence. And then when John Brennan is asked, I don't have evidence. I do intelligence. I don't have evidence. I do intelligence. Then they impeached President Trump exactly on what he possibly could have done because he was trying to interfere in the election. Because there's a law of nature. It's one of the laws of physics. It's Einstein's theory of relativity. It's Newton's laws of physics. If it's one of the laws of nature, if you investigate Biden, that means you have a corrupt motive and you are actually trying to interfere in the election because Biden is pure as the driven snow. There's never been a more honest, decent man as Biden. He's the best. There's nobody better. I love you, former Vice President. Don't make me sing what they'll sing. When Clinton accepts the nomination, it's just going to be a love fest. I never knew love like this before. They're going to be singing just the song is big. And I will always love you, Hillary. We love you. 19th Amendment. Oh, I love you. It's so horrible that the former vice president had to come in contact with that, stampeding group of elephants. Who could have predicted that? They're going to love. The love's going to be overwhelming. And believe me, I will love the most. It's like I'm voting for Trump, but nobody will love Madam Secretary more than me. She's the best. She's the most qualified. Since Jefferson, who was tear down everything. Kaylee Smith. I love Don Jr.'s response to Biden's tweet about his tax return, something along the lines of, if Hunter shows his, I'll show mine. That's probably not the first time Hunter has heard that phrase also. Kaylee Smith, thank you. Kaylee. You know, it's interesting, Kaylee and Kathy and everybody here and Jeanette and Christopher. The tax return issue is interesting. They have nothing on Trump. See, literally, money flowed into Madam Secretary's foundation and beneficial treatment was then given to Uranium One and UBS and Boeing, and you had countries that were asking for weapons deals, and they got exponentially greater. I mean, you have a litany. But don't ever make any correlations there, because that means you're engaging in some horrible, faulty logic. Kaylee Smith, thank you. So then they go after Clinton gave her tax returns. Yeah, she also deleted 30,000 emails. 30,000. She only had 60,000. Half the time she was working on Clinton Foundation nonsense, pay-to-play schemes. And so they say, well, to clean it, be pure as the driven snow. What's the problem? What's the problem? It's like, well, Democrats can never find anything because they're always deleting things or they're always losing things. Oh, gosh, those Peter Strzok text messages were just, we lost them. Isn't that funny how that always happens? We lost them. Oh, it was a technical glitch. Don't you know? Oh, okay. If Trump sneezes wrong, it's like, oh my God, he's hiding something. And when they lose, you better believe the meltdown will be. See, the thing is, people are rightfully saying, oh, well, what if they cheat? Da 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 da. They have to get close. They have to get, Mr. Mandela, hello. They have to get close. Exactly, Kathy. They have to get close, though, to cheat. I don't think they're going to get close. You have states like Nevada, you have states like Minnesota that can go. I think are going to go to President Trump. Then you have no Gary Johnson. Then you have the DNC is not outspending Trump 2-1. They outspent Trump 2-1, and he still lost. Oh, sorry, she still lost. They outspent Trump 2-1. Now the Supreme Court, did I finally get to the point? The Supreme Court cannot look at Trump's taxes before the election. The House Democrats can't look at. So now what do they have? They have no Mueller probe grand jury, so they can't, caress themselves in ecstasy looking at these grand jury statements that had nothing to do with any prosecution of anyone who worked with Russia, because that was made up. That was made up. That never happened, and that's absurd to even think that even one vote would be altered, because we actually don't know if any votes were altered. They've never given us a list of people who said, all right, you know what? I saw the Facebook ad, and I said, gosh, I'm just going to vote for President Trump now, because these Facebook ads are really, really enticing, and they're very convincing. So you don't have any Mueller probe grand jury, and you don't have his taxes, so you can't, you know what? There was a Russian person he worked with in a hotel in this country, and this is linked to the Steele dossier, which Clinton purchased, so we need another investigation. Old school dad, man. I don't think this is even a contest. I agree with you. It could be, It could be, Gregory, I have to check that out. Old school dad, man, it could be something that, it could be a landslide, it could be a decisive victory, it could be close. Whatever it is, I think that you're going to have President Trump win. And when he wins, they are not going to be able to comprehend what happened, because the Democratic Party, media, publications like the Washington Post and the New York Times, their credibility rests their credibility is built upon arrogance. If they lose again, they lose this false sense of confidence that they know everything. Their hubris is what keeps them afloat. That's it. They already lost. They are counting on President Trump being a one-term president. President Trump's only a one-term president. That's it. And all the smartest people in the room, Trump supporters, according to Peter Strzok, were smelly and backwards. And, the most enlightened people, of course, are on the left, and they're fighting for, a just world. And, of course, history is on their side. I've heard this a long time. You're on the wrong side of history, bad man. You're on the wrong side of history. Well, which side is the Democratic Party on? I will be on the opposite side on almost every issue. Or at least in aggregate, I'll be on the opposite side. So, it's like, you look at President Trump, and they're like, they think he's lost. They think he's just going to lose. They think that there's no chance he wins. They're in for another rude awakening. President Trump's going to win. He's going to win again. Then you have the Mueller, you have the William Barr and John Durham unravel and erase the Mueller probe from history, which is fantastic. The Mueller probe was a political stunt that didn't work out. Impeachment was a political stunt. They did not impeach President Trump on anything to do with breaking a legal statute. He did not break a law. They have nothing on him. Why didn't they bring up his taxes during impeachment? Because they have nothing on him. They have the media. They have petulant people who just want to go after him. That's it. They don't. There was top secret intelligence on servers outside of the United States government. And then James Comey said, gosh, we didn't find any intent. Well, then why does the server exist if there's no intent? How on earth do you have a server that even exists without intent? Thank you, Mark. Thank you. So I'm going to tell you a secret about Democrats, because I was a Democrat my whole life, and I was on the far left. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post, before Rose Twitter existed. The little rose icons you see, the dot, they were nowhere to be found. It was not as awesome and fun and hip and fashionable to be a Bernie Sanders supporter in 2016. Not at all. Not at all. You got hit pieces written from you on the left. The only hit pieces that were written about me were from the left, when I was on the left. That should tell you about how dysfunctional that world is. But you have a situation, ladies and gentlemen, where they don't have anything. Mr. Mandela! Is Biden using the Hillary playbook from 2016? Disappear and present no politics. Sounds like a winning plan. Exactly. Well, Mr. Mandela, thank you so very much to my viewers in Australia. Thank you. I am growing viewership in Australia, and I'm very, very happy. And it's actually the way YouTube works, ladies and gentlemen, just to really quickly, if I have more viewers in Australia and the UK and Canada and around the world, in Nepal, throughout the world, if I have more viewers in Hong Kong, they actually, the channel does better. So I do appreciate everyone, especially in other countries. Mr. Mandela, the playbook is very similar, except they're going to find some way. It's very similar. That's a great observation. But what Clinton did have, though, is that she was actually Biden has this, he looks and communicates and acts like an exhumed body. So Clinton had a public relations apparatus around here where she still was communicating messages, but not she was still communicating through her campaign, but she didn't have a press conference for a long time. The way Biden is doing it is that he knows he's going to give it to Clinton. There's no way they go with Biden or they lose the popular vote. So, Mr. Mandela, thank you. Rick Bartlett, thank you. Hi, HA. We appreciate everything you do for truth, ethics, and transparency. Thank you, Rick. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated. Mr. Mandela, thank you. Thank you again. Rick, greatly, greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Rick and Mr. Mandela, everyone here. Kathy, Jeanette, everyone here. Be here on November 3rd. Rick, be here on November 3rd. Vince, thank you. Be here on November 3rd, Rick, because the live stream is going to be amazing. The uploads are going to be amazing, but they don't have Gary Johnson. Gary Johnson took 4.5 million votes from President Trump. They haven't outspent Trump 2-1. He actually leads in fundraising. They're afraid of Biden. The only reason that they think Biden is going to win is because they have such a low opinion of President Trump. If you put a top hat on a crocodile, they would say, well, this is the reincarnation of Abraham Lincoln, and he could defeat Trump too. That you just put a crocodile like on a leash with like a top hat, and they say, oh, you know what? Just vote for this because Trump is this, that, that. So they have convinced themselves that Biden is a decent man. I am a decent man. He's a decent man. Biden is a decent man. He's a good man. He's an honest human being. There is no election on the planet that Biden could win because he can't. He's unable to communicate a thought without sounding like he banged his head on the wall 30 times in a row or drank like 30 shots of vodka. There's no charisma. Like, Biden not only has zero charisma, he makes Al Gore look like just a brilliant. Biden makes Al Gore look like Liberace. Biden has negative charisma. When you watch him, Rick and everybody here, you actually age. If you look at if you look at the sun, you hurt your eyes. If you look at Biden too long, the aging process is sped up. Stan Kanowski, thank you, Stan. Thank you. So, Rick, greatly, greatly appreciated. And this is another thing. I'm telling you, I don't know, this might not be the motivation, but Judge Sullivan, the judge in the Michael Flynn case, is actually doing a great thing. So the judge asks full federal court to reconsider decision. So judge refuses to dismiss Flynn case. So obviously it's not good for Michael Flynn. And Michael Flynn is an honorable man. He's already been exonerated. He'll be vindicated. And the judge is giving him a hard time. But it's not Emmett Sullivan's fault, Judge Emmett Sullivan's fault. It's not Judge Sullivan's fault. This is, and I love William Barr, but this is William Barr's fault. This is William Barr's fault. I'm telling you, it's not the judge's fault. Not the judge's fault. The judge has not been given enough information. He has not been given enough direct evidence that they set up and framed Michael Flynn. Now, this is where William Barr has to show up and say, okay, here's the evidence. Whether it's classified, you can give Judge Sullivan the information and say, look, this is classified, but you have to give, because they have evidence that they wanted to set up and frame Michael Flynn. The media and the left says, well, this is because it was a broad-ranging investigation, because Russia interfered in the election. You have to give tangible evidence saying that, okay, they knew the DNC being infiltrated was not national security. Furthermore, even if they thought it was national security, They knew Michael Flynn had nothing to do with it, and they were only going after Michael Flynn to sabotage and undermine and essentially oust President Trump. Now, they have that information. They have text messages. Almost certainly they haven't shown people. These people have communicated on government networks for 3 years prior, 2015, 16, and 17. And then 18, the beginning of the Mueller probe. But almost 3 years prior to all of this, really, like, prior to McCabe getting let go. Stan Kanowski, thank you. How's it going? Thank you, Stan. Greatly appreciated. Stan Kanowski, thank you again. Greatly appreciated, Stan. Thank you. Thank you, Stan. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, and I say this with all due respect, and this is like, you have to understand this. If somebody says, oh, we go someplace and then everyone goes to the same place, it's not. The whole message board myth, which is a horrible, really detrimental myth to President Trump, is that super secret. I already debated Jordan Sather on this, and I pretty much, like, it's there. You can watch the debate. There are no super secret spy agents on message boards filtering in, have you ever had hamburger helper? What's in the glove? Patriots. Hamburger helper. Glove. Formula 409? Stay tuned. Same bat channel, same bat time. What happens when you add an armadillo to a stray cat? Beware. The Democrats are going to lose. Patriots. And then this is supposed to be this is supposed to be like the subliminal messages and everything. So if he said something, it was because a lot of people that supported him believed the nonsense. So he's giving them props. But it's not like he's like, hey, super secret spy agents, armadillo, Formula 409, what is. He's not doing this. Ron, hello. So what I'm trying to say is, anyway, I don't want to get into it, but he just kind of threw them a little thank you, which is good people who just, are backing him. So he wanted to say something like that. But I'm not a fan of, like, we go one place, everyone goes the same place. Like, why would I want to do that? Even with people who are voting for President Trump. It's like, you know what? I just go there. I don't know where you're going, and I have no reason to go with you anywhere. So, really? Because I have to go to the supermarket. Why would I go? Why am I going to the gym? You're going to the gym. I already went to the gym. I'm going to the supermarket. That makes no sense. I need to get a haircut. You're going to the dry cleaners. Why would we all go to the dry cleaners if I need to get a haircut? I don't need to do that. Go where you want to go. Take your car. We have to all get in the same car. Go take your car. I don't need to go there. I don't need to go with you where you're going. Okay? No, I'm not going where you're going. I don't need to. Okay? That's why we all have cars. But anyway, Rick Bartlett, thank you. You getting angry? Ron, thank you. But this is all, like, I'm kind of speaking in roundabout terms here. So if somebody were to listen to me, they'd be like, what is this man talking about? But no peaking voters. Court keeps Trump's taxes private for now. This is so fantastic. Why on earth? With Trump, they're always investigating the possibility a crime occurred. With Clinton, if you even insinuate a crime occurred, based on, Tammy, hello, based on a litany of overt, quid pro quo transactions, like, oh my God, how dare you? How could you even do this? But ladies and gentlemen, when Madam Secretary when she takes the nomination from Rip Van Winkle Biden. When it happens, oh my God, it's gonna be the most watched thing in YouTube history. It will be the doves will fly in the air, and everybody will be crying tears of joy, and the masks, the tears will go over the masks, and they're just the courage, the spectacle, she's back like a phoenix. Oh my God, to save the Democrats from the exhumed body that had a horrible encounter with a bunch of wild elephants rampaging through, Pennsylvania Avenue. Well, why was even Biden allowed to be there alone? Oh, who knows? Why did he jump into the reflecting pool without any clothes on? And and they're just going to be so in love. They're going to be so in love. And you have to understand, they're going to flip the script. It's not going to take long. People are going to be like, oh my God, really? How did this happen? Because it was always going to happen. They're not going with Biden, okay? And now I'm going to my usual obsession. They're not going with Biden. Why? Because they would lose miserably. With Clinton, if President Trump tweets 10 absurd things in a week before the election, he could lose the election. I'm telling you, that's the one thing he could do to lose the election. Watch. Do not get into any social media beefs with any females. That's number one. I don't care. And people say, well, fair is fair. No. Don't do it. And don't retweet or say something, extremely offensive right before the election. He cruises to victory. Okay, because he could say something and the Democrats, you see what this really meant? This really meant this. And then they'll focus on not what he said or meant. They'll focus on what they've recreated in their minds, what they've fantasized about. Type in Joe Biden right now. Why don't you type in Joe Biden? Biden says investors don't need me, calls for an era of shareholder capitalism. Shareholder capitalism? Okay. So, Biden launches $700 billion economic recovery plan vowing to buy America. Okay. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Try to encroach on on President Trump's political messages. See how that works. Biden says investors don't need me. Calls for end of era of shareholder capitalism. Oh, okay, there you go. Throughout the crisis, Donald Trump has been almost singularly focused on the stock market, the Dow, and the Nasdaq. Not you, not your families. No, actually, we had record low unemployment prior to the pandemic. And then to protect people, we've caused 30 million people to be unemployed. That was very, very, very smart to do. Very good. Very good to tank the economy. Very sound strategy. Very, very sound. Very sound. Very... Tina Bobina! Tina Bobina, thank you! Number one fan. Thank you, Tina Bobina. Thank you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you, as always, Tina. Thank you. Thank you. Chris O'Neill! Will voters that stayed home in 2016 determine 2020? Dems that never recognized Trump as a real threat versus voters that didn't take Trump seriously but now see him as the only alternative to kleptocracy. R.I.P. Bizarro. Goodman. Chris O'Neill. That's good. That's good, Chris O'Neill. You know what? I think he's still alive. Bizarro is still alive. We will do a Bizarro return one of these days very soon. Chris O'Neill, thank you so very much. I think that the voters who stayed home in 2016 will vote for President Trump. I think that if people stayed home and didn't vote Democrat because they were it was too repulsive to vote Democrat. These people are now even angrier and would be even more reluctant to vote Democrat. I do think independents in swing states, Chris, will decide the election, and those independents always choose President Trump for the economy. Chris, they're going to vote their pocketbook, and I think that's one of the main reasons President Trump's going to win. So one of the main reasons President Trump's going to win is that you have independent voters who vote because they want a better economy. And Russell Brand has a great, he's not a Trump fan, but he has a great segment that's like 80% accurate on why President Trump is going to win. Or he doesn't say that, but he says, here's why the left can't stand Donald Trump. And he explains, like, Trump has charisma. Biden does not. Democrats don't have charisma, and they don't have any policies. So, Chris, thank you. Great point. Tina Bulbina, thank you. Climb BMX. Climb BMX. Donald J. Trump planned a presidential run 30 years ago. With that, he kept his finances in line and observed all the corruption as just a private citizen. Bar impressions, please. Climb BMX. If you want to pay me for impressions, I definitely will. This is William Barr on election night. It's come to my attention that President Trump won his second term in office, which means that the investigations into Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Strzok, McCabe, Kleinsmith, Lisa Page, the wonderful Lisa Page, the lovely Lisa Page, those investigations will be launched with the force of 20 NASA space shuttles, or continue, and we're going to find out why they investigated the president just based on hearsay and gossip, without any tangible evidence. Climb BMX. Climb BMX, thank you. William Barr talks like this, and this is also the antithesis of Trump, but also a carbon copy of Trump, but just this is what Trump would sound like if he was an egghead. And William Barr, William Barr is going to investigate James Clapper for utilizing a dossier that was purchased by Clinton. So that's how he speaks. You know, like when Fox News asks him, when they ask, like, do you think it was appropriate that they used a dossier? I'm not exactly sure that it was predicated upon any possible vantage point linked to any rational dialogue or thought process. So that's bad, right? That means that is not good. That would be the antithesis of good. I'm not here to say that they absolutely did this on purpose, but I am here to say that you would have to have been drunk and also launched into outer space in a Space Force rocket, and then lost for 50 years, and then plummet down to Earth with G-forces forcing your cranium into all different positions to actually think the Steele dossier was verifiable to investigate an actual candidate. Climb BMX, thank you. Chris O'Neill, thank you. Kaylee Smith. Did you see the snake stand? Oh, yeah. That's right. Kaylee Smith. That's huge. I'm going to do a segment on that on H.A. Goodman's other channel. But that is huge. That is huge. there's a reason that it'll be interesting how much. Let's see, how much does he have to pay? It'll be interesting to see how much he has to pay. Let's see. Oh wow, $230,000. So it wasn't worth it, I don't think. I mean, like, how on earth would this have behooved? Like, he didn't get that much money for it, and then he had to go into hiding. Now he has to pay, what, $500,000 around? Like, how does this help him? How on earth, like, nothing ever happens. Then you have this, like, Noam Chomsky says something. It's like, it's unbelievable. Trump is the greatest criminal in history. Then why wasn't he impeached on breaking a legal statute? This is like basic. It's like if even Noam Chomsky, if they can't engage in hyperbole, they have nothing. He's a criminal. Great. So find a crime that he committed and impeach him on it. Oh, that's right. They impeached him on 2 subjective allegations. That's it. UK judge orders Steele's firm to pay damages to Russian bankers. There you go. Oh, Steele's firm. Okay, there you go. So you can then say, oh, well, you know what. It's all so easily like, the whole thing is so easily debunked. All of this is coming, like, all of this is basically, all of this is, is so easily. Kathy DuPoy, thank you again for your generosity as always. And everybody here, thank you. To my super chat, thank you. You know, all of this is so easily like broken down into, okay, you had very powerful people trying to go after Trump. Didn't work out. Okay, and then they try to go after him. They have the media, like, when Trump wins again, all of their hyperbole will dissolve into this, like, it'll just dissolve into pure anger, frustration. Even they'll be even more apoplectic because they have 2 choices. When Trump wins again, they have 2 choices. Admit you set him up, you framed him, you accused him of things that he didn't do, you accused him of being things he is not. And or they just continue with the oh, well, we were right all along, but, you know, really, we're not the ones at fault. It's the people who yet again voted for President Trump. So if he's not an anomaly, are they the anomaly? That's the issue here. You have these people, Democrats, media, people on the left, pundits, who speak with authority and with the authority and confidence and fanaticism of religious leaders. So if they lose again, what happens to their fantasy world? What happens to their viewpoint of President Trump if they lose again? Like, the country will have spoken again. If he gets, and this is huge, if he gets, ladies and gentlemen, the popular vote. I'm telling you, if he gets the popular vote, you can basically say goodbye to the current Democratic Party. Whatever it is that exists now, you can pretty much say goodbye to the current Democratic Party. Because whatever that political entity is, it will cease to exist in its current form. So, it will cease to exist in its current form. You know, and that's it. I was going to email you. Tarif, I was going to email you. So I will email you. And it's going to be from contactgoodman78@gmail.com. I just got your email today. So Tarif Simon, very, very courageous and awesome whistleblower and human being. Tarif, I was going to email you today. I just got your email. But, this is Tarif Simon. Could you repost the interview we did 3 years ago? It's been removed by YouTube. Yes. I will email you to discuss that. And the email will come from contactgoodman78@gmail.com. So, Tarif, thank you. I guess basically the YouTube guidelines, everybody, there are things that through no fault of my own or through no doing of my own, YouTube, the guidelines, they're constantly updating. So, but Tarif, thank you, first of all, for your courage and for being an amazing human being. And I will email you directly, from contactgoodman78@gmail.com. If I don't do it tonight, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'll get into that specifically, describe exactly what took place. But Tarif, thank you. Tarif Simon is a whistleblower that I interviewed on this channel, and he's just a remarkable human being, and he's awesome. So Tarif, thank you very, very much. But I will email you. contactgoodman78@gmail.com. I'll email you from that email. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again, Tarif. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be back at around 11 p.m. Be here. Check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. I have a great segment on that. And I'm growing that channel, so subscribe to it. To my Patreons, thank you. The link is below to my Patreon. And if you want to support my voice long term, it is greatly, greatly appreciated. People, we have 4 months left. July, August, September, October. 4 months. 4 months, people. CG3SSF, hello. Is that what the hair looks like? I will, Joshua, thank you. I will be back at, Yansan Long, hello. I will be back at around 11 o'clock or so. Please be here at this time, everybody. God bless. To my super chat, thank you. Everyone, be here in about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so. I'll be back. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. The super chat, thank you. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. Kathy, thank you again. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel. Rick, thank you. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. I'll be back.